I built that house with my own hands. So when my wife laughed at me in front of a room full of rich people, something inside me went cold. That should have been the moment I understood our marriage was dead. But the real shock was not her laugh. It was how ready she looked. How calm. How sure. Like she had practiced that moment in her head again and again. Like she had been waiting for the perfect time to break me in public. And before that night ended, I looked her in the eyes and gave her one promise. I built this house, I told her. Now you play by my rules. The party was already loud before she spoke. Music floated through the room. Glasses clinked. People smiled, those fake, polished smiles rich people wear when they are waiting for someone else to mess up. We were standing in a giant living room full of white marble, soft gold lights, and too many people who loved gossip more than kindness. I had a beer in my hand. My wife, Claire Turner, had a glass of champagne and a smile sharp enough to cut skin. Then she laughed and said it. "Come on, Jack," she called out, loud enough for half the room to hear. "We both know you'd rather kiss my dog than dance with me. You'd rather hide in your workshop than stand here with real people." The room went still. Not fully silent. You could still hear the music. You could still hear ice moving glasses. But the energy changed. Every head turned. Women in silk dresses froze in place. Men in dark jackets pretended not to stare while staring harder than anyone. Near the marble fireplace stood Victor Hayes, Claire's boss, a real estate man with slick hair, expensive shoes, and the kind of smile that only shows up when someone else is being humiliated. He was enjoying this. That was when I knew something was deeply wrong. My name is Jack Turner. I'm 42 years old. I spent years as a Navy engineer before I came home and started building custom houses along the coast. I know how to fix broken systems. I know how to stay calm under pressure. I've worked in storms, on bad ground, around people who panic when one wrong move can crush them. But nothing in my life prepared me for how cleanly my own wife could cut me open in public. I looked at Claire, really looked at her. Her dress was perfect. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. But her eyes were too bright. Too eager. That wasn't a careless joke. That wasn't one bad moment. It was a move. A planned move. I set down my beer. "You know what, Claire?" I said, stepping closer. The crowd leaned in. I could feel it. They wanted drama. They wanted blood. They wanted to watch a husband break apart in front of them so they'd have something juicy to whisper about tomorrow morning over coffee. I gave them something else. "You'll be kissing the doors of my house when I throw you out of it." For 1 second, just one, her face changed. The smile slipped. I saw fear. Real fear. And in that tiny crack, I saw the woman I had met 8 years earlier. The woman sitting alone in a parking lot after a charity event, crying so hard she could barely speak. The woman who had been living in her car. The woman who had said she had nowhere safe to go. The woman I had taken home because I could not leave her there. The woman who signed a prenup before we got married without even reading it because she trusted me, or maybe because she was too desperate to ask questions. "Jack, you're embarrassing yourself," she whispered. Her voice was low, but it shook. "Am I?" I asked. Then I turned to the room. To her friends. To the women who spent every week pretending they were sisters while feeding on each other's secrets. Brooke, the designer who loved talking about hard work but had never really worked a day in her life. Mia, the yoga teacher whose husband paid every bill she had ever seen. Summer, the art gallery owner who sold overpriced prints to women trying to buy taste. "Ladies," I said, "did Claire ever tell you where she came from? Did she tell you she was living in her car when I met her? Did she tell you she cried when I offered her a room and a warm meal?" "Jack, stop," Claire said. Her cheeks went red under the makeup. But now I was angry, and once I saw the truth in her eyes, I could not pretend anymore. "Or maybe she told you about the paper she signed before our wedding. The one she didn't even read. The one that says she walks away with nothing if she cheats." The whispers exploded. You could feel them moving through the room like wind through dry leaves. Suddenly everyone cared. Victor's smile vanished. Brooke's mouth opened. Mia looked down at her drink. Summer took one slow step back like she didn't want to be standing too close when the fire reached Claire. Claire grabbed my arm so hard her nails dug into my skin. "We need to talk. Right now." "No," I said, pulling away. "I think we just did." Then I walked out. Behind me the gossip started growing fast. Fast enough to drown out the music. By morning, every person in that room would know Claire Turner's perfect life had a crack in it. By lunch they would all know the crack had a name. Me. I drove home in my old Mustang with the windows down and the engine loud enough to kill the sound of her laugh in my head. The road curved along the dark coast, and up ahead on the hill sat the house I had built from the ground up. My house. Our house on paper, maybe. but my design. My labor. My hands in every beam, every wall, every line. I had built it before Claire knew how to hold a wine glass like she belonged in rooms like that. She had decorated it after we got married. Soft colors. Fancy lights. Art, she said, made the place feel warm. Little by little, she turned my home into a picture of the woman she wanted the world to see. Not the woman I found in a car. Not the woman I helped. A new woman. A polished woman. A woman with no past. When I stepped inside, the house was silent. No TV. No music. No Claire. I poured whiskey into a glass and walked into the one room that still felt like mine. My workshop sat at the back of the house with plans rolled across tables, tools hanging in clean lines, wood dust caught in the corners. That room never lied to me. Boards told the truth. Measurements told the truth. Steel, stone, glass, they all told the truth if you knew how to look. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Ben Carter, my oldest friend. "You okay?" That was rough. Ben ran a small electronics repair shop and looked like he had not slept right since high school. He was the only person at that party who looked ashamed for me instead of entertained by me. I typed back. Just getting started. Because now, sitting in that quiet room, things I had ignored for months began to fit together in a way that made my stomach turn. Claire's late nights that were work dinners. The jewelry that showed up with no real story. The way she had started picking at everything about me. My clothes were too plain. My friends were too small town. My job was too rough. My life was too simple. At first I thought she was restless. Then I thought she was unhappy. But now I saw it clearly. She wasn't just cheating. She was shaping a story. And in that story I was the dull husband. The cold husband. The controlling husband. The man standing in the way of the life she deserved. Victor Hayes was helping her. The phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Back off or you'll regret it. I laughed in the empty workshop. Victor thought one ugly text would scare me. He had picked the wrong man. The Navy taught me how to plan. Construction taught me how to check every weak spot before anything fell. I knew how people moved when they thought they were stronger. And I knew what to do when someone made the mistake of thinking I would stay quiet. The next morning I woke up to a bed that felt too large and too cold. Claire's side was empty. Her car was gone. Most of her clothes were gone too. On the kitchen counter sat a note written in her neat, perfect handwriting. Staying at Brooks until you calm down. We need to talk like adults. I read it twice. Then I laughed again, but there was nothing funny in it. Like adults? Adults don't humiliate each other in front of a crowd and then run off when the truth starts pushing back. I called Ben and asked him to meet me for coffee. He came in looking tired, hair messy, shirt wrinkled, like he had rolled out of bed and come straight to me. That was Ben. Never polished. Always real. He slid into the booth across from me and rubbed his eyes. "Man," he said, "last night was brutal. Claire really went for your throat." "She's been planning this," I said. He frowned. "Planning what?" I showed him the threatening text. His eyes widened. "Victor sent that? Who else?" Ben looked around the diner like he expected Victor to walk in right then. "What are you going to do? Find out how deep this goes." He stared at me for a long second. "Jack, are you sure? Sometimes not knowing is easier." "Too late for easy." I leaned forward. "She made it public. Now I need the whole truth." Ben let out a slow breath. "I know a guy. Used to work security systems. Through him I met a private investigator. Old cop type. Name's Frank Doyle. He handles cheating spouses, messy divorces, all that ugly stuff." "Set it up, Jack. Set it up." 2 hours later, I was climbing narrow stairs above a pawn shop downtown, heading toward Frank Doyle's office. The place smelled like old coffee, dust, and smoke that had lived in the walls for years. Frank himself was thin and sharp-eyed, with a gray mustache that looked stuck in another decade. His desk was buried under folders, photos, notebooks, and half-finished cups of coffee. He listened while I told him about the party. He took notes without lifting his head. When I finished, he clicked his pen and finally looked up. "So," he said, "your wife shamed you in public, left the house, and now you think there's a bigger plan under the cheating?" "Yes. There usually is." He leaned back in his chair. "When a husband or wife starts showing public hate like that, they're not just angry. They're building something. Divorce. Money fight. Child fight. Some kind of legal move where public opinion matters." "We signed a prenup," I said. "She gets nothing if she cheats." Frank gave a little nod. "Unless she can make the court think you forced her to sign it, or that you controlled her, or that the whole marriage was harmful to her. If she can paint you as the bad guy, that paper gets weaker." I felt something hard settle in my chest. That's exactly what she's doing. Tell me about Victor Hayes. So I told him. Big real estate name. Rich. Married. Smooth talker. Famous for getting what he wants. Always too close to other men's wives. The kind of man who smiles with only half his mouth because he enjoys thinking he is the smartest person in every room. Frank listened. Then he stood, grabbed a clean notepad from a pile that was not clean at all, and wrote something down. I need a few days, he said. I'll dig into them both. In the meantime, you start saving everything. Texts, calls, emails, times, places, every little thing. If this gets ugly, and it will, you need proof. What about following her myself? He shook his head fast. Bad idea. If she wants to call you unstable, don't help her. Let me do the watching. What can I do? He smiled a little. Start looking like the wounded husband. I hated the sound of that. He saw it in my face. I know. But listen. Go where her friends go. Be seen. Be calm. Be sad. Let people think you're confused, hurt, trying to understand. If she is building a story where you are cruel, then you make sure people see someone else. I didn't like it, but I understood it. In a fight like this, truth alone is not enough. People believe what fits the story they like best. That afternoon, I drove to the country club where Claire and her circle liked to eat lunch and judge people behind smiles. I sat at the bar, ordered a sandwich and a beer and waited. It didn't take long. Brooke and Mia walked in together, talking in low voices. The second they saw me, both of them stiffened. I kept my eyes on the bar for a moment, then looked up like I was surprised to see them there. Jack. Brooke said. Are you okay? I let my shoulders sag a little. I let my hand shake when I picked up my drink. I don't know, I said. I keep replaying last night, trying to figure out what I did wrong. They exchanged a look. Not kindness. Calculation. I could almost hear their thoughts. How much do we say? How loyal are we supposed to be? How much do we want the gossip? Maybe you should talk to Claire, Mia said carefully. I tried. She won't answer. I took a slow sip. I know I'm not exciting. I know I'm not flashy. But I thought we were happy. I thought she loved me. That did something. Brooke sat down beside me. She had always liked drama as long as it was wrapped in a feeling of being helpful. Sometimes people change, she said softly. Sometimes they want different things. Different things like Victor Hayes? Both women froze. Mia took a step back. Brooke's face lost color. I don't know what you mean. Come on. I looked right at her. Everyone saw them last night. The way they looked at each other. How long has it been going on? For 1 second I thought she might actually crack. Her mouth moved, but before the truth came out, her phone buzzed. I saw Claire's name glow on the screen. Everything changed. Brooke stood too fast. I should go. You should go home too, Jack, Mia said. Get some rest. They left together, walking faster than normal, heads close as they whispered. I stayed another hour playing my part. More people came over. Some offered pity. Some pretended to care while digging for details. I gave them just enough sadness to carry back to their tables. Just enough pain to make Claire's cruelty look bigger. But inside I was not broken. I was watching. Who looked sorry? Who looked scared? Who looked guilty? Who might switch sides when the ground started moving under Claire's feet? Then my phone buzzed. Frank. Preliminary report ready. Meet tonight. When I got back to his office, a thick folder waited on his desk. He pushed it toward me. Your gut was right, he said. This is not just an affair. It's a plan. I opened the folder. The first photo made my jaw tighten. Claire and Victor were sitting in a hotel room but not in bed. They were at a small table with papers spread out between them. Phones. Folders. Notes. This wasn't romance. This was work. I flipped to the next one. Victor's car outside a law office. Then Claire walking into the same office an hour later. Then dinner meetings. More papers. More serious faces. More quiet planning. They're building something, Frank said. And the law office they're visiting handles divorce fights and money claims. My guess? They want the prenup thrown out. Maybe more. Then I saw the photo that made everything lock into place. Claire stood outside my house talking to a man with a clipboard. He was taking pictures. Making notes. Who is that? Real estate appraiser, Frank said. They had your house valued 3 days ago. I sat back slowly. The room felt smaller. So this was it. This was bigger than Claire wanting out. She wanted what I built. She wanted my house, my money, my business, my life, everything the prenup was supposed to protect. They're going to say the prenup isn't valid, I said. Frank nodded. Most likely. They'll say you forced her into it, or that she signed when she had no real choice, or that you controlled her for years and used her past against her. I thought of the party, of how carefully she had mocked me, how she made me look bitter and mean in front of a room full of witnesses. It was never just cruel. It was smart. What's my next move? I asked. Frank smiled, and this time it looked real. Now we build your case. And once we start, they're going to wish they never touched you. Frank's plan sounded simple when he said it out loud. Give them what they want, he told me over coffee the next morning. Let them think you're emotional. Let them think you're desperate. Not violent. Not wild. Just hurt. Hurt people get pitted. And if they think they are winning, they get careless. So you want me to act broken. I want you to act like a man trying to save his marriage. There's a difference. The first step was Brooke's house. Claire was staying there, and Frank wanted me to go with flowers and an apology. He parked across the street with a camera. He wanted every second on record. I knocked on Brooke's front door at 2 in the afternoon. She opened it wearing a nervous smile. Jack, what are you doing here? I need to see my wife. I held up the flowers. I need to say I'm sorry. Brooke bit her lip. She doesn't want to see you. Please. I know I messed up at the party. I was angry. I said things I shouldn't have said. I just want to fix this. Brooke softened a little. She had always loved big emotional scenes, especially when she got to stand near them without being the one hurt. Wait here, she said. The door closed. Through the wood I heard whispers. Fast, tense whispers. Then footsteps. When the door opened again, Claire stood there. She looked perfect. Hair done. Face done. Dress pressed. But her eyes were different now. Harder. Flat. Like she had shut something off inside herself. What do you want, Jack? I want my wife back. I held out the flowers. I want to fix this. She didn't take them. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I stared at her. You humiliated me first. That's different. How? Because you deserved it. The words came out fast. Cold. Clean. No softness. No shame. You've been holding me down for years, she said. Making me feel small. Making me feel like I should be thankful for crumbs. I felt my chest tighten. Crumbs? I said. I found you sleeping in a car. And you never let me forget it. She stepped closer, voice rising. Every time I wanted something bigger, you reminded me who I used to be. Every time I tried to grow, you looked at me like I should stay grateful forever. Well, I'm not that scared girl anymore. No, I said. Now you're just a cheating wife. The slap came so fast I barely saw it. My head snapped to the side. My cheek burned. Across the street, I knew Frank was getting every second of it. Claire's chest rose and fell. Stay away from me, Jack, she hissed. Stay away from my friends. Stay away from my job. Your job. I laughed. You mean Victor Hayes's bed? Her face twisted. This time she came at me with her nails, trying to scratch my face, but I caught her wrist before she touched me. We stood there, locked in that ugly little doorway, years of lies and blame and fake smiles hanging between us. Let go of me, she said. Or what? I'll call the police. I'll tell them you're stalking me. I'll tell them you're unstable. Did I threaten you, Claire? I looked at the flowers in my hand. Because I remember showing up with an apology. She jerked free and stepped back. This conversation is over. No, I said. It's over when I say it's over. I dropped the flowers on the doorstep. This is my life you're trying to tear apart. My house. My marriage. My name. I'm not going to make this easy for you. Then the door slammed in my face. I stood there a moment, breathing hard, then walked back to my truck. Frank called me 10 minutes later. She hit you first. Tried to scratch you. Threatened false claims. I got all of it. Good, I said. Because that was exactly what we needed. That night, phase 2 started. I called Victor's office and asked for him directly. His secretary tried to brush me off. I said, tell him Jack Turner called. Tell him it's about my wife and his future. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Victor's voice came smooth and sharp. What do you want, Turner? I want to make a deal. Pause. What kind of deal? The kind where you get a chance to walk away before I ruin your life. He gave a short laugh, but I heard tension under it. I don't know what you think you know. I know you've been sleeping with my wife for 6 months. I know you had my house appraised. I know you think you can help her take everything I built. Silence. Then, are you threatening me? No. I'm giving you a chance. I kept my voice calm. I also know you're married to Helen Hayes. I know Helen comes from money and I know she hates public shame. So here's the deal. Meet me tomorrow night at the Maple Street build. The big house for the Parker family. Come alone. We talk. Maybe I let this stay private. And if I don't? Then Helen gets a package with photos and a few other surprises. I hung up before he could answer. Frank, who had heard the whole thing on speaker, looked at me carefully. You think he'll come? Men like Victor always come. He'll want to see if he can scare me. He'll want to enjoy himself. And if he brings someone? Then we adjust. The next night, I got to the construction site an hour early. The Parker house sat half-finished under the dark sky, huge and proud with open walls, raw wood, and the smell of cut board still hanging in the air. I knew every inch of that place. Every stair. Every outlet. Every weak board and every strong beam. If you know a house deeply enough, you know how sound moves through it. You know where to stand. You know what can hide you and what can trap another man. Frank waited across the street in an empty house with a camera and a radio. If things went bad, he would call the police. If things went right, Victor would bury himself. He pulled up exactly on time in a silver Porsche that shined even in the dark. He stepped out slowly, looking around, nervous but trying not to show it. Turner, he called. Where are you? Up here, I said from the second floor. Front doors open. He walked in, his fancy shoes clicking on unfinished wood, and climbed the stairs. When he reached the big upstairs room that would one day be a family lounge, I was sitting on a stack of lumber with my hands loose on my knees. He looked around and gave a little smile. Nice house. I know. That's why people pay me to build theirs. His smile faded. Let's stop playing games. What do you want? I want to know why you think you can take my wife, my house, and my business and walk away clean. Victor shrugged like it was all too easy. Your wife came to me. She's unhappy. She wants more than you can give her. She wants money. Maybe. He stepped closer. But she's willing to earn it. Is that what you call this? Earning it? Victor laughed softly. Face it, Turner. You're a working man who got lucky. Claire figured out she can do better. Better than the man who pulled her out of a car and gave her a life? Maybe she got tired of you using that against her. I watched him carefully. He thought he was in control. That was the beautiful part. He was getting comfortable. Then he pulled out his phone and showed me the screen. A recording app. Claire has been saving everything, he said. Every fight. Every cruel word. Every time you reminded her of her past. Every time you made her feel small. I stood up slowly. I am bigger than Victor. Wider shoulders. Stronger hands. Years of work do that to a man. I let him see my anger. And you think that helps you? I think it crushes you, he said. See, prenups only hold when both people agree freely. But if Claire can show she signed that paper because she had no safe choice, if she can show you controlled her, if she can show the whole marriage was harmful, then that paper disappears. My jaw tightened, but inside I was cold and focused. So that's the plan, I said. Make me look abusive. Throw out the prenup. Take half of everything. Then she marries you and you both enjoy what I built. Victor smiled. Something like that. I nodded slowly like a man hearing the full truth for the first time. Then I reached into my pocket and held up my phone. The recording app was running. There's one problem with that plan, I said. His face changed at once. What? You just confessed. For 1 second he went blank. Then panic hit. You can't. I can't what? Record a man threatening fraud on my own property? I took one step closer. You thought I'd come here emotional. You thought I'd beg. But I build houses, Victor. I plan ahead. I check every angle. I don't start work without knowing where the weight will fall. He lunged for the phone. I was ready. I moved aside and let his own speed carry him into a stack of drywall. It crashed down with a heavy burst of white dust. He hit the floor hard, suit ruined, face red, pride worse than broken. Stay down, I said. You're already humiliating yourself. He scrambled up, coughing and furious. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I held up the phone again. Tomorrow morning your wife gets copies of the photos. Tomorrow afternoon every person you do business with knows what kind of man you are. You bastard. No, I said quietly. I'm the husband you thought was too simple to fight back. He backed toward the stairs. Claire's name slipped out like one last threat. She'll never forgive you for this. I stared at him. Claire lost the right to my forgiveness the second she chose to destroy me in public. After he left, I sat alone in that unfinished house for a long time. The recording would protect me. The photos would hurt them. But legal proof was not enough. Claire had tried to kill me socially. She wanted me to look small, angry, unworthy. If I wanted to finish this, I had to take back the story in a way no one could ignore. I had to do to her exactly what she had done to me. Only bigger. The answer came fast. The annual Coastal Hope Gala. Claire loved that event more than anything. It was where I first met her 8 years ago. Where she had cried in the parking lot and told me she had nowhere to sleep. Over the years, it became her favorite stage. At that gala, she wasn't the woman with a hard past. She was the polished wife. The graceful donor. The woman who belonged. That was where I would end it. Frank spent the next week collecting more proof. We had photos. We had the recording from the build. We had money records showing Victor had paid for Claire's jewelry, spa trips, and shopping for months while she was still living in my house. We had enough to crack them open. But the biggest surprise was Helen Hayes, Victor's wife. Frank arranged a meeting at her lawyer's office. She came in wearing a cream coat, no smile, eyes tired but steady. She looked like a woman who had been swallowing pain for years and was finally done choking on it. Frank laid the photos in front of her. She didn't cry. She didn't gasp. She just stared for a long time. Then she looked up at me and said, "This isn't his first time." I stayed quiet. He always thought I'd stay because of the money, the family name, the image. Her mouth tightened. I am tired of being embarrassed while he walks around like he owns the city. This is going to get ugly, I told her. Good, she said. I want ugly. I want consequences. Are you ready for everyone to see it? She leaned forward. For 15 years, I played the perfect wife while he chased whatever he wanted. If the mask is coming off, I'll help rip it off. The night of the gala came warm and bright, the ocean air soft outside the Ocean View Hotel. I wore my best dark suit. In one hand I carried a leather folder. Inside was everything I needed to blow their little world apart. I arrived alone. The ballroom looked like a dream built for people who love being watched. Crystal lights. White tablecloths. Waiters moving like shadows. Soft music. Smiles that cost money. At the center of it all stood Claire in a deep red dress I had bought her for Christmas the year before, when I still believed love was safe if you worked hard enough. Victor stood beside her in a tuxedo, his hand resting on her waist like he had already won. When they saw me, both of them went still. Then Claire whispered something to Brooke and Mia. Soon heads started turning. The crazy husband is here. That was the message moving through the room. Perfect. I wanted every eye on me. Ben appeared at my side looking nervous enough to be sick. Jack, what are you doing? Finishing something. He glanced toward Claire. She's been telling people you've been stalking her. Calling her friends. Driving by her job. All lies. I looked toward the stage. But lies have an expiration date. Dinner dragged. People talked. Laughed. Clinked glasses. Claire kept looking toward me more and more often. Each time her smile seemed tighter. Victor tried to look relaxed, but he kept checking entrances, exits, faces. He knew something was coming. He just didn't know from where. Then the main presentation began. The charity director stepped onto the stage and started thanking donors. A slideshow played behind her. Photos of happy families. Volunteers. Checks. Smiles. I stood. My chair made a sharp sound on the floor. The room noticed at once. I walked to the front carrying the folder. One hotel worker moved like he might stop me, then thought better of it. Maybe curiosity got him. Maybe people always step back when they sense something bigger than a normal scene. The charity director looked confused. Sir? I took the microphone. Good evening, I said. My voice echoed through the ballroom. Most of you know me. I'm Jack Turner. And I have something I need to say. The whispers began instantly. Across the room, Claire stood so fast her chair pushed back hard. Her face had gone pale. Victor grabbed her arm and said something through clenched teeth. Too late. Everyone was watching. 2 weeks ago, I said, my wife Claire humiliated me at a party. She laughed at me in front of our friends. She made it clear she thought I was beneath her. She wanted everyone to see me as the husband who was holding her back. Security. Victor shouted from his table. No one moved. Even the waiters were still. At first, I said, I thought she just wanted out of our marriage. I thought she had stopped loving me. But then I found out the truth. I opened the folder and held up the first photo. The room leaned in. This is Claire and Victor Hayes in a hotel room 3 months ago. Gasps hit the room from every side. Not in bed. Planning. I held up another photo. And this is Victor at a law office. And this is Claire walking into the same office. And this, I raised the photo of the appraiser outside my house, is the man they sent to value my home. Stop. Claire shouted. Her voice cracked in the middle. I looked at her. What? Because the truth burns. She was shaking now. Victor had gone white. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, turning back to the crowd, my wife and her boss were not just having an affair. They were planning to steal everything I built. Their plan was simple. Tell the court I forced Claire to sign our prenup. Tell the court I controlled her. Tell the court I hurt her emotionally. Paint me as the villain. Then throw out the prenup and take half my house, half my business, half my life. You're insane. Claire yelled. He's lying. Am I? I pulled out my phone. Because I have a recording of Victor Hayes explaining the whole plan in his own voice. The silence became heavy. Nobody coughed. Nobody moved. Nobody even looked away. Then I spoke again, slower. Most of you know Claire as a polished, successful woman. What you may not know is that 8 years ago at this very event, I found her in the parking lot crying. She had snuck in because she was desperate. She was sleeping in her car. She had nowhere safe to go. Please, Claire whispered. Tears were now running down her face. But I had already lived through my own public humiliation. Now it was her turn to feel what that was like. I took her home, I said. I fed her. I gave her a room. I helped her stand up again. I married her because I believed she loved me, not my house, not my money, not what I could give her. I believed in her. For one tiny second, Claire looked almost human again. I did love you, she said, voice breaking. I stared at her. No. You loved safety. Then you loved comfort. Then you loved status. And when you found a man with more money, you decided to take everything you could before you left. I pulled out another sheet. This is a money record showing Victor Hayes paid for Claire's jewelry, her spa days, and her shopping for 6 months. While she was living in my house. While she was wearing my ring. While she was planning to rob me. Now the room turned on Victor. Not all at once. But you could feel it. Faces changed. Eyes narrowed. People started putting pieces together. Then, from a table across the room, Helen Hayes stood up. She held her own folder. Her voice came out clear and strong. Tell them about the others, Victor. He looked at her like he had seen a ghost. Helen? No. Tell them. She stepped out from her table. Tell them about Anna Reed, the banker's wife. Tell them about Rachel Grant, Judge Grant's wife. Tell them how many married women you chased while I smiled through dinners and charity photos. Tell them how many private secrets you learned because you could never keep your hands off other men's wives. The ballroom exploded into shocked noise. Chairs moved. People stood. At least 3 men looked ready to tear Victor apart on the spot. One of them, a broad man with the body of someone who used to play football for a living, moved toward the aisle and blocked Victor's path to the door. I knew him. Tom Reed. Anna's husband. You're not leaving, Tom said. Victor backed up, panic taking over now. This is crazy, he said. He's setting me up because his wife doesn't love him. Is that what this is? I asked. Then I pressed play. Victor's voice filled the ballroom. Clear. Loud. Ugly. He talked about Claire wanting more than I could give. He talked about the recordings. He talked about making the prenup disappear. He talked about destroying me. Every word hit the room like a hammer. When the recording ended, the silence was even worse than before. Because now nobody could pretend. Now everybody knew. Judge Grant rose slowly from his table, his face dark and tight. Victor Hayes, he said, you are going to regret this for the rest of your life. That was when the room finally broke. Victor bolted toward the side aisle, but Tom Reed caught him before he made it 3 steps. The 2 men crashed into a table, sending glasses and plates everywhere. People shouted. Hotel security rushed in at last, but now they were not coming for me. They were coming to keep Victor from being torn apart by angry husbands and furious donors. Claire dropped back into her chair like her bones had given up. Brooke and Mia moved away from her, not even trying to hide it. Summer looked sick. Nobody wanted to stand too close to the woman at the center of that kind of shame. Helen stayed standing. She looked at Claire, then at Victor, and there was no pity in her eyes. Only relief. Relief that the truth was finally in the open. Police were called. Lawyers were called. Phones came out. People whispered, then argued, then whispered louder. Victor was taken out in handcuffs before the night ended. He kept shouting that it was all twisted, all false, all revenge. But no one cared. His own voice had done the damage. Claire was questioned too, but she was not arrested that night. She did not need handcuffs. Her punishment had already started. Every eye that landed on her carried disgust, judgment, or cold curiosity. The city she had worked so hard to impress had watched her mask fall off in one brutal, unforgettable moment. And me? By the time the ballroom emptied, the story had turned. I was no longer the bitter husband at the edge of the room. I was the man who had been betrayed, trapped, and nearly robbed, and who had fought back with proof. By sunrise, everyone in our social world knew what happened. By noon, the whole city knew. The divorce moved fast after that. Very fast. Once the court saw the photos, the money records, the recordings, and Claire's own ugly behavior, the prenup held strong. Exactly as written. She had cheated. She had helped plan a fraud. She had tried to break me down in public to help her legal story. She got nothing. No house. No business. No soft landing. Just her clothes, her ruined image, and the long shadow of her own choices. Victor lost even more. His marriage collapsed. Helen took him apart in court. Business partners ran. Clients vanished. Other men started asking hard questions, and some of those questions turned into lawsuits. His name, once gold in this town, became poison. But the part that stayed with me most happened 3 months later. I was eating breakfast at a small diner across town, the kind of place with cracked booths, hot coffee, and no one pretending to be someone else. I was halfway through the menu when a voice I knew too well said, "Jack?" I looked up. It was Claire. For 1 second I barely recognized her. She looked older. Tired. Her eyes had sunk in. Her fancy clothes were gone, replaced by a plain diner uniform and an apron tied too tight. The shine she used to polish so carefully for the world was gone. In its place was something raw and sad and worn out. When she saw that I knew her, she stepped closer to my table. "Jack, please," she said. "I'm sorry." I said nothing. Her voice shook. "I made a terrible mistake. I lost everything. That might have broken the old me. The man from 8 years ago. The man who saw a hurting woman and thought love could save her. But that man had died the night she laughed at me in front of a room full of strangers." So I looked back down at the menu. "No," I said quietly. "You chose everything." She swallowed hard. "Please don't do this. You chose Victor. You chose greed. You chose lies. You chose to humiliate me in public. You chose every step." Tears filled her eyes again. "I have nowhere to go," she whispered. "I'm sleeping in my car." That line hung in the air between us. A circle closing. A cruel one. I remembered the first time I heard those words from her. Back then they made me open my door. Back then they reached the softest part of me. Now they reached nothing. "That's not my problem anymore," I said. She stood there for a long time. Not moving. Not speaking. Just waiting. Waiting for me to become the man she once knew. Waiting for me to rescue her again. But some betrayals burn away the part of you that still wants to save the person who set the fire. At last, she wiped her face, forced herself to stand straighter, and said in a small broken voice, "What can I get you, sir?" I folded the menu and set it down. "Just coffee," I said. "Black." She nodded and turned away. I watched her walk back to the counter in silence. And for the first time in months, I felt something calm settle inside me. Not joy. Not revenge. The war was over. Claire wanted everything and now she had nothing. Victor thought he could steal from me and now he was the one left empty. I had built my house with my own hands. And in the end I rebuilt my life the same way. One hard truth at a time.